do we do now?
I don't know.
Guild Wars 2 has just done what no other MMO has ever done for me, and that is leave me speechless because of its story elements and not anything to do with its gameplay. I was highly affected by how this last episode of The Living World has ended, and I want to go over a few things here, plus respond to some of the questions that Wooden Potatoes had. And so in that case, it's going to contain spoilers. If you haven't played the last episode of Living World, please go do that, come back, tell me what you think, but this is how I feel about it. Now, this season was definitely going at a rapid pace, and it was really quick. Now, especially the last couple episodes. Now, I didn't really like the stuff with Joko. I've never really liked him as a character. I don't have an attachment to him because I didn't play the first game. And once he was gone, like I was edgy for him to be gone and for us to move on to the next part. And then everything progressed so quickly to Krakatorik coming, and then us getting ready and us getting prepared, seeing Glint, and it was just everything was coming at us so fast, and I was so ready. And I remember that scene. We're walking down the forge, and we're talking to all the various people that have come to help us. We're cheering them up somewhat, telling them it's going to be okay, and that we've got to believe in ourselves, and all this. And I was fully into it. And wow, did they really pull the rug out from under me on that one? Did not see it coming whatsoever, and it was a perfect ending. We failed. We failed worse than, in my opinion, worse than we ever have before. Even before, it's never felt like a failure, and I'll touch on why, and Wooden Potatoes cover that as well. But this has really shaken me up, and I love how they presented it. Now, there are two things I want to highlight before I go into the story itself, and that is the voice acting in this was amazing. Voice actors don't get enough credit in MMOs because they're usually running with very few amount of lines, and once again, story is secondary. It doesn't have a huge impact on what we're doing. You usually skip past a lot of it. In this episode, they were on point, and the only thing better than their performance was the music. I usually play Guild Wars with the music turned off. It just helps for recording. But in this instance, if you're like me and you turn it off, turn the music on. The score is amazing, and the pacing it sets, it controls the scene, and it controls it's amazing. You have to play it that way. Now, there's no other way to say it. Aurene's dead. That dragon we cared for, that dragon we watched hatch, that dragon we bonded with, and who was always there for us, and we were always there for her, relatively speaking, died. And arguably, it's our fault, our hubris, our ego. And it's ironic because as the player, we have no control over that. Nowhere in here did we make a choice to do any of this. But I know that at the end, when that moment happened, I felt responsible because I was 100% in agreement with where the story was. I was so looking forward to kicking the butt of Krakatorik that I'm like, yeah, we can do this. Of course we can. Everything's going to go right because we rarely lose. Now, one of the comments on Wooden Potatoes' previous video did touch on the topic of, Wooden Potatoes touched on it, that we've lost before. Even in Path of Fire, we died. But the difference here is we had the ability to move on to the next mission, whereas right now we have to stop and think about it because it's a Living World episode. That to me is not highlighting how redundant this story is or how we've been in this place before. If anything, I now see this as AreneNet using the tools they've got effectively. This is the best way to present this story. That very moment back then when we died, yes, while it affected me, you 100% agree. The fact that you can just move on to the next quest made it feel hollow. Whereas this, the fact that I have to step away and think about it, this is how Living World should be utilized. When you end an episode, it should leave you thinking about the episode. Obviously, not every single one of them is going to be as impactful as this or as big as this, but that is the strength of doing the story the way they're doing it here. It gives us that time to really let this sink in, to really think about it, because ultimately, yes, Aurene is most likely going to come back. I don't think any of us doubt that. Now, the safe bet for Aurene to play is to bring Aurene back. I don't know how, but just 100% bring her back. She's back and everything's okay. I would actually kind of love to see them take the harder route and just leave her dead forever. Bang. error, you stuffed up, she's gone, she ain't coming back. And a lot of people point to Keith as being the key here. The fact that Keith went through such a big change means that obviously Aurene must be coming back, because why would you make that change? And that is true. From a development standpoint, you're right. But that also could be the trap. That's kind of what I like about it. In life, you make plans, you make changes, and then if you fail, you can't say, well, I made the changes. Like, this was a decision that Aurene and Keith made. That doesn't mean the developers have to follow through with it, because sometimes life goes wrong. But as WP pointed out, development costs. Why would you invest money in doing something that's going to fail, even just for story? Kind of agree with him. I think I think she's going to come back. Personally, I hope for a middle ground. I hope to see Aurene come back, maybe in the mist somewhere. Oh, I personally just hope we have this no matter how they do it, there's this bittersweet moment of Aurene does come back, yes, but she is not with us anymore. So no matter what her new life is, whether it be ascension or not, I hope that now she just can't be with us anymore. She is left, and we have to say goodbye, because that way we still maintain that feeling of failure a little bit. We still feel that guilt, even knowing that she's back, and maybe this was how it had to play out. This was part of Glenn's plan. Maybe this is just that's just the way I see that. Like, if at the end of the day we still have to say goodbye to her, we still keep control of that emotional baggage, and I kind of like that. How the next episodes are going to play out, or the next episode, sorry, as I believe there's only one left. I personally, I'm in complete disagreement with WP. I actually kind of want to see us wallow a little bit. While this is, in my mind, the biggest mistake we've made. Now, I'm sure you could point to other elements in the story where maybe we've made an error on the same scale or worse, but I can't think of one. And partially, once again, because this one has such an impact. So let's not dwell on comparisons here. Let's dwell on how the player feels and what's happened. And to me, I I would lose a bit of faith in myself. Ritlock probably just lost a lot of faith in us, as we already saw him doing. The nations of the world may have lost more faith in us. Everyone who was depending on us to protect them may have lost faith in us. The Zephyrites may have lost faith in us. Like, there is so much that we just lost in trust due to this episode. And I would kind of like to see the next episode be about us not knowing how to come back, or even if we want to come back to this fight, if we're the right person to lead this fight, and to almost have the episode be about us sort of on trial with the rest of the world judging us, and us not, like, you might have to defend your actions, but that doesn't mean that you, the player or the character, would believe your actions. We did everything we could, we prepared as much as we could. That could be something we say, but I know I personally would sit there and doubt that answer. Like, I think that's a very strong narrative to push, and I hope they do go down that route. Now, I do. When will Aurene come back? There, it could be at the end of the next episode. I kind of hope it's not. I kind of. I know it's the most likely, and it kind of depends on if there's going to be another Living World season after this, or an expansion. I really hope for an expansion, but WP dropped some info that apparently it was mentioned at a convention that there is going to be another Living World season, but that is not 100% confirmed. If they did that, I guess okay. I just don't want them to. I'm already very much itching for the next expansion, so I would kind of like to see this little bit of self-doubt creep in for the next episode to leave us, maybe reluctantly returning back to being the commander, and then maybe a future prequel to the expansion being that hint that maybe Aurene is still out there. And then the expansion leads into us getting her back at the start of it to start the next fight. That's where I would like to see that go. Now, was this a good narrative design for them to pull? Was this the right decision? For me, yes. I think everything about this episode was epic, and while I would have loved if we'd defeated Krakatorik, I would have gone, okay, awesome, Krakatorik dead, move on, let's do this. It wouldn't have impacted me though. I would have been okay, but it wouldn't have had this impact on me, and I really, really love that they have impacted me. Because one of the things about, well, for me, I always struggle with story, but I love the world. I left Guild Wars probably I think within the first 6 months of its release, and I came back about a year and a half later, and I came back because of Wood and Potatoes videos. If you're listening, thank you very much. It was his lore videos where I was just watching them one day while I was at work, listening to them and talking about things like Cantha and the previous games and the stories and the gods and things like that. And I started to really get sucked into the world, and then I returned to the game much more invested in it. And this is also partially why the Revenant is my favorite class, because to me, there's a lot of fun story behind that class. I really like, while it doesn't portray a lot in game, I like how it ties into the history of the world, and I just think that's awesome. Now, I can they could take the safe option and go happily ever after at the end of the next episode, and everything's okay, and we're all back where we started. I just don't want ArenaNet to be afraid to continue to pull this sort of punch to really hit us when we're down, because I think we all remember our regrets more strongly than our successes, and this is the only time I've had a regret for a story element in an MMO. That is really something for them to achieve that. And as much as we can sit here and tear it apart and call it arbitrary, and even say we could have seen it coming, or someone mentioned how it seemed so convenient that the rocks fell down and we fell over, and then that led to everything, collapsing. I disagree with that statement. I don't think that at all. I think Kraukatoric. I think the reason why possibly Kraukatoric backed off at the end is because he expended more energy than he was originally willing to use against us. That's what the comeback was. He can only store so much energy, and he just blew a shit ton of us to kill Aurene. And this could be his downfall in the end. This could be what has now made him weak enough to strike. This could have been what Glint saw. This is why maybe Aurene could foresee her death when Glint couldn't, because it is not her death. It was a necessary step in getting to the next part of her journey to defeat Kraukatoric, who is now weakened and retreated. So I don't think it was a convenience. I think it was a lack of willingness. Kraukatoric didn't take us seriously, and then when he started losing, when he was threatened, he basically used a lot of his power to remove us from the equation, or so he thought, and now he has to go back and try and rebuild that power base. I'd be really interested to see where that goes from here. I really don't have any words for the end of this. I am so happy with this episode. I have never been the biggest fan of the Living World. I'm a crap PvE player. You can see that in the footage in the back. I am not good at PvE, but this engaged me. Keep engaging me, ArenaNet. I like that. See you next episode.